Hello everyone, I am Shalaka Deshpande. Our today's topic is more on interrupts. In previous lecture we saw details about what is interrupt and various registers associated with the interrupts. So today we are going to see more information related with the interrupts. So let's get started. First point is returning from interrupt service routine. Now what do you mean by interrupt service routine? That was explained by me in my previous lectures, okay? So see, returning from interrupt service routine, what does that mean? Now suppose there is one special space reserved in the code memory for ISR, interrupt service routine. After execution of ISR, how will the interrupt system know that it has to resume the main program execution and come back to the point where it has stopped interrupting, or I mean to say resume the program execution? How the interrupt will know that that ISR is completed and it has to go back to its main program? Okay, so for that we have two instructions. First is the RET and second is the RETI. There are two instructions, RET instruction and RETI. Okay, now these instructions RET and RETI are placed at the end of the ISR. Okay, now suppose this is the ISR. Suppose this is the ISR. The last ISR is a program. Okay, it will execute all the instructions of ISR, and after executing all the instructions of the ISR, the last instruction will be RET. Okay, or RETI. And after execution of this RET or RETI instruction, it resumes the main program execution. Okay, now what happens during the RETI instruction? First point, and what is the difference between RETI and RET instruction? Okay, see, the RET instruction pops the content of a stack. Now I will explain you the processes which happen when interrupt will occur. First you listen to me carefully and then I will explain you how push and pop operation take place. So when RETI instruction is executed, contents of the stack are popped, means program counter contents are popped, and after popping the current instructions from the stack, it is having the next address of the next instruction which is to be executed in the main program, and it resumes the execution of main program. This is about the RET instruction, return instruction. Now what is the RETI instruction? RETI instruction performs two operations. The first operation performed by RETI is it clears the or resets the interrupt flags corresponding to that interrupt, okay, or a flip-flop which is stored in a flip-flop. It clears the flag which is corresponding to that interrupt, okay, and after clearing the flag, it retrieves the contents of the stack. The contents of stacks are popped and resumes the execution of main program. Okay, so that is the difference. RETI performs two operations, first flag clearance and then pop, and RET only performs pop from stack. That is difference between the RET and RETI instruction. Okay, so that was about the returning from interrupt service routine. Okay, now next is, will a non-serviced interrupt be serviced later? See, now there are two types of interrupt, low priority interrupt and high priority interrupt. Suppose a low priority interrupt is getting executed and at the same time high priority interrupt comes into picture, that is it sends the interrupt signal to microcontroller, then the control jumps from low priority interrupt to high priority interrupt, and high priority interrupt is executed even if the low priority interrupt was first, because it is a high priority. So high priority interrupt will executed, and what will happen to low priority interrupt? It will get lost. Now why it will get lost? Because in 8051 there is no provision of storing the non-serviced interrupt in the queue, pending them as non-serviced interrupts and servicing them later. So there is no provision of storing them in queue. So the low priority interrupt will get lost. So they are not executed. Okay. Answer to this question is no. Now what happens when interrupt occurs? Now main point, when interrupt occurs, why interrupt occurs? See, as I told you, there is one microcontroller and there is one peripheral, and if the peripheral wants to communicate with a microcontroller, that is it wants to send, transmit or receive the data via microcontroller, then the interrupt, it will generate the interrupt and send the interrupt signal to the microcontroller. Okay, so that is why when the data transfer has to take place between peripheral and microcontroller, the interrupt takes place. Now what happens when interrupt occurs? See, suppose this is the main program. I'll tell you. Suppose this is the main code. I'll write it as MC. Now suppose the microcontroller is executing the main code. First it will push program counter content to stack. This is S. I have denoted stack by S. It will push the program counter content to stack. It will push the PSW register content to stack. PCL program counter low byte is pushed first and PCH program counter high byte is pushed second. Okay. So in this way the contents of a program counter register are pushed to stack. Okay. What is the next? Now program counter is empty. Now the address of the ISR which related with that interrupt is stored in the program counter. Okay, now program counter is having a ISR. So what will happen now? What will happen now? It will stop at this point. It will go to the ISR. Okay, execute the code which is there in the ISR, and after executing the code again it will resume the execution. And while resuming the execution, what happens? When it come back from ISR to resume the execution, the contents of these stacks are popped. Okay. Now see, the stack is having the address of this next instruction. Okay, address of next instruction is present in the stack, and that content is popped out from stack and stored in the program counter, and program counter resumes the execution of this remaining main code. Okay, so in this way interrupt occurs. Now what are those steps? When interrupt occurs, what exactly happens? See, now these interrupts are called during the S5 bit of each machine cycle. Now what is machine cycle? Instruction require machine cycle to execute. Machine cycle consists of the T states and clock periods. The details I have explained in the lecture execution speed of 8051 microcontroller. You are requested to watch it. Okay, now let's see what are the actions taken by processor or controller when interrupt occurs. Okay. So first is current instruction which is getting executed. That execution of current instruction is completed. Means suppose this is the last instruction when the interrupt occurred. So execution of current instruction which is in the progress is completed, and after that PSW, contents of the PSW program status word register is pushed onto stack. Then contents of the program counter. Now program counter holds the address of next instruction which is to be executed by microcontroller. Contents of the program counter, they are pushed to the stack. Okay. Now after that what happens? The address of the ISR is loaded in the program counter. Okay. And then the flags which are related with the interrupt, they are reset. Suppose the interrupt has occurred, the flag related with that interrupt is reset, and after resetting the flag, the long call to the ISR is generated. Long call to the ISR is generated means there is a lcall instruction in the main code, okay, which is responsible for diverting the controller or a processor to the ISR. So long call instruction is used to transfer the flow of a program from the main code to ISR. So in this way the ISR gets executed, and again the main program is resumed by popping the contents of stack. So that's all about the more on interrupts. I hope you have liked this lecture. If you have any doubts, you can ask me in the comment section below. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe my channel. Bye bye.